Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I kind of just want to do a chill, get ready with me kind of video. I have some other videos I need to film, so I need to put some makeup on, and I also just kind of have some thoughts. I feel like I just want to ramble into the universe, so if you want to hear some of my thoughts right now about how my no-buy is going, as well as how med school is treating me mentally, physically, emotionally, let's go ahead and get into it. Can't do a makeup video without my TikTok influencer headband. Okay, I'm gonna start with my eyes first, I think. I'm using a palette that kind of has some fallout, so if I forget to say what products I'm using, I apologize. Everything will be listed in the description box. So let's kind of just get into it. Where to begin? So let's start by talking about my no-buy a little bit. It's actually been going really, really well. I've been very successful so far. I have bought zero new makeup. I have bought zero clothing items. And I have only bought skincare as replacements for things I've run out of. So definitely sticking to my rules and my goals so far. Today I'm using the Goddess palette by Alter Ego. It's a dupe palette for the Natasha Denona Gold palette. So yes, so far I've been having pretty good success with my no-buy, and I'm really proud of myself for it because I think it's made me a lot more scrutinizing about products that I put on my wish list and that I'm interested in. I feel like now when I see new products coming out, instead of immediately going, oh, it's a new thing from this brand, I love this brand, I have to try it, I have been a lot more thoughtful about adding it to my wish list. I'm sitting there and actually asking myself, does this look like something that would be unique to your collection? And the fact that I've been making these videos going through my full collection has also been really helpful with that because I'm really, really getting familiar with everything that I have, which is a lot. So it's kind of hard to keep straight in your mind sometimes. But yeah, I feel like since I started this no-buy, all of my wish lists have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter because I go back and look at the items that I added and I go, I don't think I really need that. I feel like it's also been helping me sort of develop a better relationship with avoiding like instant gratification, Because there have been tons of times so far where I've seen something and I've gone, oh, I want that. But obviously the instant answer is, no, you can't have that. So, I don't sit there having to think about it like, oh, should I buy it? Should I not buy it? Do I want it? Do I not want it? The answer is immediately no. So it kind of takes that element of like analysis paralysis where you're sitting there going, oh, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? That is gone. And it's actually kind of relief in a way. So there's that, which is really helpful. But also what's been really helpful is every time I've wanted something, the desire for it is gone within a matter of hours. So I know that had I gone and bought the thing, I couldn't have wanted it that much if the desire for it is gone within a matter of hours. And if I had bought it, I would have just been spending money on something that ultimately I didn't really even want that much. I just wanted it in the moment. So it's helping me realize just how much of my purchasing decisions were based on this desire for instant gratification. I will say that in terms of beauty YouTube stuff, it gives me a little bit of a hard time just because I don't really have anything new to talk about. I know that a lot of people on their channels, they make a big point of talking about new releases and trying new things and letting everybody know whether it's worth it. And I can't really do that right now, but I feel like it's better for me to be doing it this way. Because A, like I said before, I'm getting reacquainted with my collection. But B, I think it's more realistic. Like, I know that there are definitely a lot of times where I get kind of overwhelmed by the beauty content that comes out about new products. I feel like everywhere I look, it's somebody trying something brand new instead of going back and using stuff that maybe I have in my collection or that they have reviewed before and said was really amazing. And then you kind of never see it again, I am glad that I have sort of put myself in a situation where I can't do those things. I have to use what I already have and appreciate it because that's all I'm going to have access to right now. So yes, overall, I think the no-buy has been a really good thing for me, number one. Number two, I feel like it hasn't been anywhere near as hard as I thought it was going to be, which obviously is a relief. That being said, I talked about this in my channel intro video, but I will be making myself a little exception. So 21 Days of Beauty is coming up, and there will be a video. I will make a video about the sales when the product selection is released, telling you what I'm interested in, what I recommend, all of that good stuff. But I agreed with myself when I started this that when 21 Days of Beauty came around, I would allow myself some purchases. I'm still sticking to that. But I also think that I am going to go ahead and extend the no-buy out past the first quarter of the year. I might convert it to more of like a low-buy situation with some very strict rules, just because I think trying to maintain my channel with nothing new coming in is going to get more and more difficult. Like, I feel like it does force me to be creative and come up with ideas using only the products that I already have. But I feel like it would be nice to be able to start introducing content about new products. So I think this might sort of evolve as the year progresses, but I think I do want to continue it in some capacity, primarily because it's saving me so much money. It really is. Like, I had no idea how out of hand my spending habits had really become until I saw my credit card bill for January, and it was like half of what my credit card bill normally is. And I was like, oh, I've really been spending that much money on makeup and clothes and things that I don't need, you know? So it's been a huge wake-up call for sure, and I want to keep that going. I want to keep this, you know, behavioral reset going, because I think it's only going to be beneficial for me. One reason that I really want to keep it going past the first quarter of the year is the Sephora sale is going to come up. I believe that'll be in either late March or early April. And that's going to be a big point for me, because forcing myself not to buy anything during a Sephora sale, I would not give myself exceptions for the Sephora sale like I do for 21 Days of Beauty. The discount just isn't good enough, you know? But I think forcing myself not to buy anything during a Sephora sale will be an important sort of cognitive turning point for me. I know that sounds so stupid. It's literally makeup, but like when you get into these habits, they really do stick, and they really do kind of alter your behavior in ways that you don't even understand until you force yourself to get out of that behavior. Interrupting the no-buy discussion to show you this dope lid shade. It's called Cassandra. It's amazing. So gorgeous. I love this. Beautiful. So yes, kind of in summary, as far as the no-buy situation, it's going really well. Probably going to extend it. Still giving myself my exceptions for 21 Days of Beauty, and there will be a video on the entire 21 Days of Beauty situation coming soon. Whenever they post the sales. I don't know. I know it starts March 12th, so probably within the next week there will be a video about that sale, so stay tuned. Putting on a little of my L'Oreal Magic Perfecting Base just in a couple of spots where my pores look huge. I figured in this video I'd also talk a little bit more about med school and my thoughts on everything, how that's going. I've gotten some really lovely comments with well wishes. You know, thank you to everybody who wished me luck on my test the other day. I did actually do quite well. I was really pleased with the results of that. So thank you for all the good vibes. Clearly it worked. Using my Milani Supercharged to color correct under my eyes. But yes, I figure people are probably curious, because people usually are, just about med school stuff. And if you don't care, that's also fair enough. But it's going. It's going. One thing that's just kind of heavy on me lately, I saw a couple of TikToks come up on my feed about this, and it really resonated with me. I've just been thinking about it a lot. In your third year of med school, you start clinical rotations. So you're in the hospital instead of doing classroom learning like you are for your first 2 years. And that's a really big change, number one. Number two, usually within any given specialty's rotation, you're switching clinical contexts every 1 to 2 weeks. You know, the longest I've spent in one spot was 4 weeks, and that was my last rotation because I was at one clinic the whole time. But on my surgery rotation, I was changing subspecialties every 2 weeks. On my pediatrics rotation, I was changing every 1 to 2 weeks. On my OBGYN rotation, I was changing every 1 to 2 weeks. And it's difficult. It's a lot. It's like starting a new job every 1 to 2 weeks. It's very stressful. But more than that, and this is kind of what the TikTok was getting at. I'm using my MAC Studio Radiance Face and Body as my foundation today. But sort of what the TikTok was getting at was that there's this pressure on third-year med students because these are our graded clerkships, right? So next year, when we start taking elective classes, those are more kind of a pass-fail situation because we don't all take the same things, so we can't really be compared. But we all have to take the same set of clerkships in our third year, and so we all get graded. And that's kind of one of the main things that program directors at residencies are going to look at is our grades in our core clerkships, so the ones that we do this year. And so you have to be constantly aware of how you're being evaluated. It's this constant awareness that everybody around you is judging you, you know, and that it's really how they feel about you is going to make a difference. I mean, the evaluations that we get for our clerkships count for 40% of our grade in that clerkship. Those grades are going to be a big determinant of where we end up for residency. And so you have to really be constantly aware of trying to impress the people that you're working with all the time, 24/7. You have to always be on. Well, not 24/7, but you know what I mean. Like, the entire time you're there, you have to be on, like, in your, you know, highest effort mode constantly, because you have to try to impress these people because your future a little bit is in their hands, right? And that gets really, really exhausting. This constant awareness of being evaluated is really mentally draining. And that was kind of what the TikTok was getting at. And I relate to that very, very much. And I know a lot of my classmates have expressed the same thing. And another thing that can be really frustrating is that the evaluation system that we are, you know, kind of graded on is extremely subjective. It depends almost entirely on who's evaluating you. Because, you know, physicians are busy, and a lot of the time they don't want to sit and put in the effort to really write you a well thought out evaluation. So they kind of just give you mediocre down the line, which for some clerkships is fine. That's another thing too. The way that they're graded isn't standardized. So in one clerkship, getting, you know, the middle column of your evaluations, there's like needs improvement, competent, and outstanding. And if you get competent down the line, in one clerkship, that might be an 85. In another clerkship, it's a 70. Or like a 67, even, like 2/3 or whatever. And it's really frustrating that in some places, you can do everything you're supposed to do at the level you're supposed to be able to do it. And if your attending gives you marks that reflect that, technically you're failing. That's really frustrating, and it's hard because these count, you know, these evaluations count, and it's hard because it's entirely dependent on who's filling it out. Some of them are going to give you competent down the line because they feel like it was fine and they don't want to put in more effort to the evaluation than that. Some of them, if they're really cool and chill, will just give you outstanding down the line, and, you know, you could have been doing the exact same things and to get one versus the other. It's entirely dependent upon the person filling out the evaluation. I mean, I've gotten ones where I had, you know, competent down the line, and then these comments about me that were just, like, raving about liking me so much, and then I've gotten outstanding down the line with, like, a 2-word comment, like, you know, good student or whatever, you know? So it's tough. It's tough. And again, I understand that, you know, physicians are busy, but I wish there was kind of more of an emphasis on the fact that these things matter a lot for our future. And I wish there was some more, at least standardization across the board, if not, you know, an emphasis on, like, really thinking through what you're saying about the students that you work with. This is the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. So yes, constant awareness of being evaluated and the subjectivity of the evaluation system in general. 2 things that are on my mind a lot lately. Another thing that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and this is, I know, something that is kind of universal for people who are at the stage that I'm at in medical school. there's a lot of sort of looming huge events. I have to take step 2 this summer. So for those of you who don't really know much about the medical world, step 1 is the first step of your medical licensing exam, and you have to pass that at the end of your second year before you start clinical rotations. Step 2 is the second step of your licensing exam, and you have to pass that to apply for residency. So because residency applications open in September, generally the advice is to take step 2 in the summer before you start 4th year. So that's currently sort of my timeline. And that is very, very soon. All things considered. You know, it's March, and that's, you know, June, July. So that's pretty nerve-wracking, especially because step 1 used to be a huge indicator of how residency programs would view your application. Your score on that test, that first test during your second year, or just after your second year, made a huge impact on how well you were perceived on your residency applications. That test, my class, of course, being the first to go this route, that test is now pass-fail. So I passed step 1, obviously, or I wouldn't be on my clinicals, but I have no score for it. And so now sort of the general consensus is that step 2, which is still scored, is now essentially going to be the test that allows residency programs to rank you. Or not rank you for residency placement necessarily, because, you know, they have interviews and all of that stuff for that. But in terms of whether or not they want to interview you at all, when they're looking at stacks of applications and they need to sort them out quickly, one of the first things they're going to look at is our step 2 score. And that's pretty nerve-wracking. This is a huge deal. This test is a massive deal. The biggest test I've taken since the MCAT, probably. And the MCAT was not a good experience for me. I have never had worse, just absolutely raging anxiety in my life than when I took the MCAT. So that's one thing I'm worried about, is just kind of maintaining my mental well-being while I'm preparing for that exam. And then, like I said, residency applications open in September, which, again, is the biggest thing I've done since I applied to med school. So there's a lot of big things that are coming up in my life, and I just kind of think about that a lot, and it creates a lot of stress and anxiety in amongst the stress of it and anxiety of being constantly evaluated. I just used the Makeup by Mario contour stick, by the way. Sorry, I keep messing with my hair. I apologize. Let me actually grab a hair tie and, get it out of the way. Where was I? Right, so just kind of deadlines hanging overhead, and the scariest thing for me about that residency application deadline, this is a little mini of the Rare Beauty blush. The shade is Joy. One of the things about that residency deadline that is the most nerve-wracking for me is I still don't know what residency I want to apply into. I have a couple of specialties that I am kind of leaning toward. The problem is, though, that those are not specialties that we get to rotate through in 3rd year. I don't get to do any rotations in those specialties until next year, which starts at the end of May, beginning of June. And then applications are in September. So I have very little time to explore these other specialties and decide basically what I want to do for the rest of my life. And that's really, really nerve-wracking to think about. And it's stressful because I feel like there are a lot of people who are very, very sure, and it makes me feel just behind. And I know that we're not supposed to compare ourselves because, everybody's in different places. But, I'm terrified of making the wrong call, Because that's years and years of training. And what if I make the wrong decision and I hate it, So this is the kind of stuff that I'm pretty much always thinking about in amongst trying to impress the people that are constantly evaluating me, and also constantly studying for the next test that I have to pass to do well in the clerkships, because if I do well in the clerkships, then the residency programs like me. And if I do well in the clerkships, the more likely I am to do well on step 2. And you see how this goes. It's a lot. And that's part of why I'm really trying to dedicate myself to spending more time for myself. because I have to get away from these thoughts eventually or I'm going to go nuts. You know, like, I mean, nobody can think stuff like this 24/7 and not go absolutely crazy. So I'm really trying to do more for me. And that was one of the goals I talked about a lot in my channel intro video. And I feel like I've been doing a good job. You know, I've done yoga every single day this year. So that's at least, 20, 30 minutes, sometimes longer, with myself, kind of getting away from my thoughts just for me. This is Essence Make Me Brow. And that's been really good for me, I think, physically and mentally. Exercise is kind of touchy for me, so I feel like yoga is one that I can do without it being too rigorous in a way that makes me develop a kind of toxic relationship with it. So I feel stronger, and I feel a little bit more able to get away from my thoughts, which is nice. Also, having this channel has really been a help in the way I was hoping it would be. I have something else to think about, like it still is like a project, and I treat it like it is part of my work. I don't always feel like filming, but I'm always glad when I do, because it gives me a reason to kind of sit down and do something and talk about something that I love for a little while. But it's not that I don't love medicine. That's kind of the thing. People always say like, oh, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I don't know. I don't like that mentality. A job is a job, and I love medicine or I wouldn't be doing it. But I think that this mentality of thinking that it's got to be your whole life and your whole personality is kind of really toxic. I don't know. And that's kind of something I'm also starting to realize about myself since I've started spending more time really thinking about the things that make me happy outside of school and work and all of that stuff. Is I'm very much like an academic perfectionist, and I always have been, and I've always kind of defined myself as my academic successes. That's kind of always the first thing about me is like, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm in medical school, I got great grades all my life, and now I'm here. And now that I'm trying to spend more time thinking about what I want to be doing in my personal life and who I want to be outside of that, I'm kind of realizing that in a lot of ways I don't really know who I am outside of that. And I know that, again, that sounds so pathetic, but I don't know. I feel like maybe some of you, the former gifted kids out there, can maybe relate. You barely know who you are outside of academics, because that's kind of how you've defined yourself. I just set my under eyes with the No7 Lift and Luminate. This is the Kosas Cloud Set. And so that's really, I think, what it comes down to for me in terms of spending more time with myself. Not only is it important for me mentally in terms of keeping myself sane, but I'm starting to realize that I'm trying to figure out who I am and what I like, because I've never really given myself the opportunity to explore it before. I mean, I've had hobbies, but nothing ever really as personally defining as school has been. So that's kind of something that's been on my mind. I feel like I've had a lot to think about in the last couple months. This has been helping, though. This has really been helping. Having the opportunity to get on here and talk about something that I love outside of sort of school and work and academic validation has been a huge load off. So I appreciate all of you being here and watching. It motivates me to keep coming back, for sure. Put on a little bit of the Maybelline City Bronzer. Right now, I am actually in my one elective course for the year. It's an online course, which is giving me a lot more time to do things for myself. It's giving me more time to film, so I'm kind of filming ahead a little bit. It's giving me some time to unwind from the last 8 weeks or so, which have been very nonstop. So I'm grateful to have this opportunity to kind of take a breather. I'm going to put on more blush because there's no such thing as too much blush. Oh yeah, another thing too I should probably talk about. This channel has grown so much faster than I ever anticipated. I never would have dreamed I'd already have over 100 subscribers on this channel. I kind of touched on this in my last video, but it's really cool. It's really exciting. It's really validating to me in sort of deciding to do that. And I mean, I know I don't need like external validation to feel like this was a good choice, but it is. It feels good to know that like I feel like this was a good choice. Again, I would feel like it was a good choice either way. But the fact that you guys are watching and enjoying content too makes me really happy that I'm doing this. So thank you for being here. It really means a lot. I used the Becca highlighter in Opal, one of my favorites, which, by the way, someone pointed out in the comments of my highlighter collection, you can actually still get this shade. So thank you for pointing that out to me. Correction. Add a little pencil to my brows. Be back in a sec. Okay, brows are fixed. Let's do this lower lash line. One thing I do want to say about the whole med school thing, because I feel like I sound really ungrateful and like I hate everything about this, and I don't. I'm so grateful to be here. I am so fortunate to be in this position. Learning the things that I get to learn, seeing the things that I get to see is a huge privilege, and I'm never ever want to sound like I'm not grateful for that every single day. I'm grateful for my teachers and my attendings who have, really poured a lot into making me a better doctor. I'm grateful for my fellow students who kind of help me get through it. We all help each other through. More than anything, I'm really grateful to my patients. I'm really grateful for the experiences I've gotten to have connecting with people and getting to learn from them in a time that can be really, really challenging. Some of these people, it's, some of the worst experiences they'll ever have, and it's a real privilege to get to be there. I mean, not that I'm glad, but you know what I mean. Like, it's a privilege to get to be there for them in any way that I can, in any capacity, even if it's just as a student, especially I was just on my family medicine rotation, and I feel like I had some really incredible experiences getting to talk to some patients and really hear their stories. And being in a position to get to do that for people is so special. And I promise I'm not crying. I was just poking myself in the eye. It's really special. And so I'm very grateful to get to be here. But there is a lot about it that is very mentally taxing from our end as well, for sure. Especially in a time when, I live in Texas, so healthcare is I have a lot of opinions about the current state of healthcare in Texas, but we don't have time to unpack all of that. So I just have a lot to think about, And it doesn't make me any less grateful to be here. Curling my lashes really quickly. I'm so grateful every day. But it's also a lot, I just want people to kind of get away from that mindset of like, healthcare is not a job, it's a calling. Like, no, it's still a job. Like, it can be a job that you feel called to do. But it is still a job. Like, you still need to, like, not make it your whole personal identity. That's my opinion. If you want to make being in healthcare your whole personal identity, then that's your prerogative, man. This is the Rare Beauty mascara. I'm realizing more and more as I get older that my weird habit of making academia my entire personality is actually so toxic for me mentally, and I'd really like to get away from that. And I feel like I'm making strides. I am making steps towards getting away from that. I can love what I do and still feel really passionate about it and not let it consume me. That's called balance, folks. I'm still working on that one. And I know healthcare is not the only place where this kind of mentality exists, but it's what I have experience with, so it's all I can really speak to. For lips, my lips are feeling super dried out lately, so I'm just going to pop on some of the e.l.f. Ride or Die Lip Balm. This is the shade Tough Cookie. It smells amazing. Don't love the squeezy tube thing that doesn't have like a applicator, but I do love the shade and the formula and the smell. So okay, this is the finished look. Thank you for being here. If you are still here, thank you for sitting and listening to me ramble. I feel like I needed to get a lot of that off my chest. I appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed this, if you got something out of it, if you want to see more Get Ready With Me style content, a little more casual, a little more laid back, do let me know in the comments if you have any questions about medical school or anything like that I can answer for you. If anything was confusing, because I feel like I'm still figuring it out sometimes, let me know. If you're new around here or if you're old around here and you haven't hit subscribe yet, I hope you will consider hitting subscribe down below. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next one, bye guys.